If you are using podcast downloads as your milestones, I promise that you are going to be sorely disappointed. And I'm really sorry about that, but it's the truth. There are so many other milestones that you could be using to celebrate your wins, to celebrate your success as a podcaster that go beyond just the download numbers. So today I want to encourage you to celebrate the milestones that you can actually control and the ones that are really actually worth celebrating. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Successful Podcasting Unlocked. I'm your host, Alicia Galati. I'm the founder of Galati Media, a full-service podcast management agency where we help business owners launch and maintain lead-generating shows. Today's question is, what podcast milestones should I actually be celebrating? This is a question that I love answering because if you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook or you're on TikTok or you're on any of these places, you've probably seen someone say, just hit 100,000 downloads on my podcast. Woohoo! Just hit 10,000 downloads this month on my podcast. Woohoo! The thing about that is that most of those people are in the top 1 to 2% of podcasters. 98% of podcasters are probably never going to reach those numbers. And that is okay. It's important that as podcasters and as content creators, when we're celebrating things, we're not just celebrating, oh, I got all these downloads, but we're celebrating our ability to show up. So let's talk downloads. Let's put it into perspective. Most podcasts will get anywhere from 25 to 35 downloads in the first 7 days of that episode going live. If you get 100 downloads in the first 7 days, that puts you in the top 25%. Podcasting is a long game. If you've just started your show, you probably shouldn't expect to see those kinds of numbers. If you've been podcasting for over a year, then you might see those numbers. But when you're thinking about your podcast and you're thinking about, okay, I'm showing up regularly, I'm giving this my all, how many people are actually listening? What are those active people listening? How much of my episodes are they listening to? We talked about downloads and stats and understanding all of that stuff a few episodes ago. But when you're really considering the milestones worth celebrating, go back to your goals. What actually are your goals? If your goal is to have guests on who are allowing you to become referral partners or strategic partners in some type of collaboration, then what do the download numbers actually matter? We had a client where she would quite constantly do this to us in that she would say, I really want to be able to collaborate with these people. Also, what's going on with my downloads? How come they're low? And I would have to reiterate to her, what are your goals? I don't think that it's a good idea to focus on both of those goals at the same time because your ability to show up for your listeners, your ability to continuously give them high quality conversations, you're making that dependent on these guests who you're just looking to create strategic partnerships with. So which is it? Which do you want? Because the people that are able to really bring those quality conversations to your listeners may not be the best strategic partners. And so you have to make a decision on which direction you want your podcast to take. That is what I mean when I say, what are your goals? Get back to that. And then how can we celebrate those milestones? I would love for you to celebrate a few different types of milestones. So let's talk about some of those ideas. Celebrate your launch. No matter how many downloads you got, no matter how much you've done, celebrate it. Celebrate those episode milestones. Did you hit 25 episodes? 50, 100, 150, 300. That is incredible. Most podcasters don't make it that far. So how can you celebrate your ability to show up for your audience? Another milestone that you can celebrate is, did you achieve your goal? Did you get a strategic partnership? Cool, that's a win. Did you get that strategic partnership to refer a really high quality client to you? That's a win. Did you get that client to sign with you? Another win. All of these are tying back to your podcast and the things that are worth celebrating over. I have seen people with less than 100 downloads per episode sell out group programs, land speaking gigs, get clients, get asked to contribute to Forbes. All of these things are possible even with smaller download numbers. So let's focus on the milestones that we're actually able to achieve. Now, how can we celebrate? You could have anything from going to get yourself some ice cream or going and buying that new microphone you've been eyeballing. Any of those are great ways to celebrate, but let's talk about milestone episodes and some of the really fantastic ways we have seen clients and helped clients really celebrate those 100, 200, 300 episode marks. So one of our clients had recently hit a 200 episode mark, and what we did was a soft brand refresh. So this was just a simple, let's change up the format, let's change up the music, let's add in some new graphics, or let's add in a new cover art. Didn't make any major changes to the actual podcast content, but just gave it a little bit of a lift to make it better and more high quality. That's a great way. Another way is that you could have a special episode for that. Maybe you have your friend interview you about your podcasting journey, or you have someone that you respect interview you about your expertise. These are all ways that we've seen clients do this in a really strategic way to get more attention on what they do and how they have been able to show up regularly. If you are someone who has guests in the past, I highly recommend if you have a milestone episode coming up or an anniversary coming up, and you're celebrating it in some way, reach out to all of your past guests and ask them to be on your street team. We've talked about a street team before. When we talked about podcast launching, the street team is just people who are excited to cheer you on. They're going to share it with their friends. They're going to share it with their audience. And there's nothing really in return. They're not affiliates or strategic partners. They're just there to celebrate you. That is a great way to drum up more excitement, get your podcast episode in front of more eyes for these milestone episodes. Your ability to show up consistently is worth celebrating. And I want to encourage you to do that. So if you have a milestone episode coming up, or you have some type of thing that you were able to accomplish with your podcast, I would love it if you sent me a DM and let me know. Let me celebrate with you. Let me give you a huge shout out. You can find me at alicia.galati on Instagram or Alicia Galati on LinkedIn. And I would love to be able to celebrate you today. Until next time, happy podcasting.